Hey everybody, it's Teardown time again, but before I reveal what we're going to have a look at today, we need a little bit of a history lesson and some context. So cast your minds back, it's the 1980s, and the VHS versus Betamax wars are on. So I'm sure a few of you already know that the two contenders were Betamax and VHS. We know now, looking back at history, where that one went. VHS won. Really because it was slightly cheaper. You know, things always do come down to cost at the end of the day. Slightly inferior picture quality compared to Betamax. So the tapes were slightly smaller, slightly better quality. But yeah, unfortunately, Betamax lost out, and we all got VHS instead. I don't know, maybe that was a good thing, because we might have ended up with spending more money on Betamax players and tapes. So you've got to look at it from both sides, haven't you? So really by the mid-80s, this war was over. It was won by VHS. But Betamax didn't die. It carried on. It didn't carry on in the same format. It changed. It became Betacam. So what is Betacam? Well, Betacam is a professional version of Betamax. It was introduced in 1982, and it is based on Betamax. As you can see, a consumer grade Betamax tape is the same as a Betacam tape. Now, Betacam became an industry standard in the video broadcasting industry. It was the standard. You had Betacam cameras, Betacam edit decks, players, and most of the stuff you saw on TV all the way through the 90s. Anything that was standard definition was probably on some variant of Betacam. So what is the difference between Betacam and Betamax? Well, the actual tape cassette itself is largely the same. There are some small differences. They have slightly better quality rollers and runners and things like that, just to allow the tape to run a bit cleaner. Actual composition of the tape is slightly different. The other differences are that Betacam runs at a far higher tape speed than the Betamax. Betamax runs at 1.87 centimeters per second, whereas Betacam runs at 10.15 centimeters per second. So it's a massive increase in the tape speed. So I said that Betacam went through many generations. Yeah, certainly you had Betacam, you had Betacam SP, then you had a number of digital variants through the 1990s. Here we've got the tape, which is the same size as a Betamax, but there is also a large format tape as well. This is a full-size Betacam tape. As you can see, it's quite a lot larger than the standard tape. And compare that to VHS, you can see there that it's quite a bit bigger. Because of course one of the issues with running the tape at much higher speed is you don't get as much time to record on a single tape. So that's why the larger format tape was introduced. So you can have much greater recording time. The smaller tapes were the ones that tended to be used in video cameras because having the large tapes in cameras just made the camera just so much bigger. So on the smaller tape you could get about 30 minutes of recording time, obviously not a lot at all, and the larger tape you can get up to about 90 minutes. It does vary depending on whether you're recording PAL or NTSC. Okay, I hear you saying, what is the box? What's the box? So here we are. This is a Sony BVW-75P Betacam SP edit deck. So this dates from around about 1986, thereabouts. That's when the Betacam SP format was introduced. Now the BVW-75 seems to be it was like the industry standard. It's what everybody had. So they're quite common, these. I picked this up off eBay. I paid 40 quid for it. In fact, I've seen on eBay, you can get these for 25 quid working. So these are not expensive anymore. They're obviously starting to drift out of the video editing suites and being decommissioned, and they're on the second-hand market now for peanuts, really. Obviously, the pros, well, they would have stopped using these a long time ago. They probably only had them in studios just for legacy reasons. This panel slides out to reveal another set of controls for the time-based correction and various other little things you can tweak. This actually clicks upwards as well, so this could be installed into a rack. All of the functions on here can be accessed through remote panels as well. And underneath the control panel, there's another set of controls and stuff in there. We'll have a closer look at that when we take it to pieces. There's two handles on the side here, which are nice big aluminium handles. It's interesting. They've actually gone to the extent of actually putting a little rubber thing just in here, so when you let go of the handle, it doesn't clatter against the two bits of aluminium. So round on the back, we've got all the inputs and outputs. We've got two cooling fans, the mains input. We've got a circuit breaker just there. We've got various inputs and outputs. This can actually record 4 channels of audio. So you've got 4 inputs, 4 outputs. There's also dedicated dubbing ports which allow you to connect 2 of these units together. And it makes the editing between two tapes a whole lot easier because they just sort of link and synchronize themselves together. So you've got component outputs and inputs, composite, there's reference timecode signals, there's all sorts of stuff. Right, on the front panel here we've got the main power switch, we've got headphone output and volume control. We've got the recording input level controls on the playback. These are either on a preset position, or you can actually pull them out to have them on a vernier setting, so you can actually have those on preset or your own setting. So we've got an audio limiter. This is the video input selection. So we've got component, composite and CTDM. I can't remember what that is. I did find out what that was. I can't remember off the top of my head. We've got the video RF level meter. We've got adjustable recording level controls and tracking control. We've got this option here which allows you to have different remote controls. So if you're using it, if you've got a remote control option and this is sat in a rack, you can flick it between local and different remote control options. On the pull-out panel, we've got the editing functions just here. So this allows you to insert a video section, or you can do audio or time code, or you can do multiples. You know, you could have video and 2 audio channels as part of the edit, or you could just do the video if you want to. You don't have to. You're not committed to actually doing just the audio and video at the same time. We have the in and out editing options. So you can actually, using this panel, is actually program the points where you want to insert the source video into this. You actually program these up, and then you can just press the auto edit, and the actual cassette recorder itself will rewind the tape, find the right frame number, and then start the other machine and synchronize everything together to make perfect edits. Over here we've got the tape transport control. So we've got this switch here, Confi, that is confidence recording. So it allows you to watch what you're actually recording, which is quite handy. We've got some options there for if this is a playback or an editing machine. Some options for the time code just here. These are the main tape transport controls, usual stuff here: record, play, rewind, eject, stop, etc. Just next to that we have the tape counter, which of course is in hours, minutes, seconds and frames. And then here we have the jog shuttle control wheel, which is a lovely piece of engineering, I have to say. So it's either got two settings where you have a shuttle control, so you can either go backwards, forwards, and then there's a center position for stop or freeze frame. But if you push it down, it then takes that off, so you can actually have sort of jog control over it, so you can just tweak it to just the right frame. So on this little section that pulls out at the back, we've got some audio controls, time-based control, remote local switch, some settings and adjustment pots, time-based corrector bypass and on, so you can bring that in and out, video input, non-standard or auto, not really sure what that does, capstan lock, no idea. Oh, and one other thing, just here above the audio input controls, we've got some VU meters for the audio levels. I think it's about time we turn this on and I can start showing you some of the stuff that it does. Okay, so if we take the lid off and finally let you have a look at this, you'll see that it is actually a really ugly built thing. So as you can see here, this area is all the tape transport, and then we have all these plug-in cards, which obviously provide all the electronics to actually make it all work. And just under this this cover here is the actual drum and heads. So if you just undo these things, you can actually pick that up, and you have access to the actual video heads and the tape drum. So as you can see, even under here, we've got little boxes, shielding cans. There's just sort of bits of circuit boards just rammed in. It seems to be all over the place. So I think what I'll do, I'll just put a tape in and allow you to see how the tape transport works. Now this machine can actually take both both sizes of tape. There is small locating guides in here which allow you to insert a one of the small tapes or one of the large ones. You can see it pull the tape out and then run it right round down right over here. So the wrap on the actual drum is actually quite extreme on this, which is one of the key things about Betamax. Now, one of the key things about this kind of editing deck is the level of tape transport control that you have, and that's what gives you the perfect freeze frames, the perfect high speed and rewind capability, so you don't get any video tearing and things like that. So it opens up a lot more scope for editing. Now what I've got here is the tape is loaded, the head is actually spun down at the moment because it's gone into standby. In the centre of the shot there you've got a small brass wheel just here. Now that actually rotates with the movement of the tape. So I've just put two markers on that, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to spin it up and actually operate this frame by frame on the jog control, just so you can see the level of control that it has over the actual tape. So I'm in jog mode, so I'm just going to move it forward and then backwards, and you can see there that is actually feeding the tape around the head. So you can see how slowly it's able to move, how controllable it's able to move the tape over the head. So that's me just operating it forwards and backwards. Right, what I've just done, I've just quickly grabbed an old pocket TV and connected it up to the output, just so you can see it actually working live. You can see the the tape transport in the background there, and we've got a still image on the display. So if I just shuttle this forwards and back, you can see so if I go into shuttle control, I can wind it round and you can actually get to individual frames. Obviously it's all perfectly in sync and there's no tearing or anything on it. You go forwards, backwards. Right, it's about time we start taking this apart. So what I'm going to do is just whip out all of the cards that are in this. We'll have a brief look at them, and then we might have a little bit a more detailed look at some of them a little bit later on. So let's just whip these out. They're all got these plastic eject things, so you pull them that way and it ejects the card out of the back plane. This one has a cable attached to it. Right, I've just got this upended so we can have a look at what's underneath the front panel here. An hours meter. This counts operation time, drum running time, tape running time, and number of thread and unthreads. We can just see here as well the mechanism for the slide out panel there. Lovely little mechanism there, and the sliders as well. It's obviously on ball bearings. We've got TC generators, that's time code. I'm not quite sure what that is. It's got system reset, VTR control, synchronize, real position, menu, setup. Yeah, so I think this is more of the sort of system control on here. There's just a small little retention bracket here. Lots more custom Sony ICs. It's a nice small PGA. This one is clearly a lot more digital than the other ones, so given that this has got the setup menus on it, I didn't actually show you those, but there's a number of sort of configurable options that you can actually program in, and you just access them through these buttons here. Right, let's just whiz off the side panels. Nice pressed steel with reinforcement bits welded onto it, and yeah, it's a similar story on the other side. So I'm just going to take off the base. Yes, that's just sort of a fairly flimsy piece of pressed steel. And we're starting to see a bit more of the tape transport in the base there. This space here is where those two cards that I just took out slotted and plugged in onto the back plane, and you can see the underside of all the sockets for all the cards that plugged in. This assembly here has a number of LEDs in it, and what it actually does is light up the tape label that's on the top of the tape. I think there's a small mirror in here which allows you to read the tape label when there's a tape actually in the drive. Let's see if this will... Yeah, that comes out pretty easily. Ah yes, there's the mirror. And the LEDs just in front of you now. and the whole mechanism for drawing the tape in. Oh, that's interesting. Just getting an idea on how the tape transport works now. Now, given that the two tapes, you have the large and the small, the spindle positions are actually different between the two tapes. So what we've got here, these two drive spindles seem to be on a linear position, so you can actually move them closer together and closer to the actual video head as well. So when you put a small tape in, these will close up and allow it to make contact with the two spools inside the cassette. And when you put a larger tape in, these will move probably to this position. Actually, this looks like that's as far as they go back. We can also see here little pogo pin kind of arrangements. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are obviously going to detect various different options of tape, and the other things like the write protect and things like that. Okay, just taking the front panel off. Looks like you have to remove all the knobs and everything. Yep, there we go. I've just got a small filter for the vacuum fluorescent display that was for the VU meters. Looks like that's been broken in the past. Certainly this has been on and off a few times. The plastic is all a bit chewed up, so it's obviously been well used. Oh, it's interesting how they've done these little coloured areas that come up and follow the switch. They've actually got a piece of metal on there, and all the little plastic things are inside it. Wow, we've got a fair bit of stuff in here. We've got a large IC there, Mitsubishi one. Got all the little buttons and LEDs, and all the switches. Right, bugger this. I can't seem to get sockets and things off this, so I'm going to start chopping wires. This is hardly going to work again anyway. Okay, that's part of the front panel out. We've got the vacuum fluorescent display. That looks a fairly modern design, actually, that. With the nice square edges. Looks like we've got these audio adjustments, which was the playback and record adjustments. They run through these little coax, screened wires onto this little board here. So I've just chopped those off. Got a little board there, which is for the headphones monitor output. So yeah, that was probably just taking the audio from down in here to bring it out to the headphones. We got the mains on-off switch. I'm not quite sure whether that was actually mains up to there. I suspect it probably was. What else have we got on here? We've got this little VU meter. That was for the video signal display. We've got some LEDs there that came through the front panel just to indicate a few different things. Right, that's the front panel out. We've got the 7-segment displays there for the time code display. These little rubbery things around the LEDs just to make sure there's no bleed from one LED to the next. There's quite a bit of stuff on there, considering it's just a control panel, but then there's actually only this ribbon cable between it and the main board, so there's obviously a serial protocol or something running over here. It's probably what that IC is doing. So we've got the jog shuttle control. You can just see inside there, there's a little toothed wheel, so there's obviously an optical pickup on that. That's the little panel that pulled out with the time-based controls on it. That's quite a thin PCB, that. It's quite... And we've got the mechanism for the front tray that pulls out. Nice scissor arm on there just to keep everything nicely aligned. Nice ball bearing runners in there. And just down here we've got the hours meter. It's a cover, pressed bit of metal. And that's the hours meter. So this I actually had off earlier. I took, you have to unsolder this, and then inside here there's a little SR44 watch battery, which just keeps the counter. But yeah, I find it really odd that this resets itself when the battery goes flat. It's actually mentioned in the service manual that you have to replace it about every 5 years, so it's not really going to be keeping any sort of track on the amount of time that the head drum or the mechanism is actually used, because you know, it's easily defeatable. Bit odd. Or maybe it's just used for servicing more than actually keeping a log on how many hours the actual machine's done in total. Right, it looks like we've got two PCBs on here under these two shielding cans here and here. We've got another shielded can here. Interesting, that says high voltage on it. I suspect these are probably the part of the amplification for the video heads. Looks like there's a fair bit actually on the head itself, but looks like there's some more going on just here. So that's possibly one of the video amplifiers. We've got a couple of ceramic hybrid modules on there. Right, we've got RP29A and RP29, so no, they obviously are very slightly different, even though they do look the same. So we've got this shielded can thing here. Interestingly, this one says high voltage on it. Got a little access thing just there with some test points and an adjustment pot. So we've got the main video head and transport. I'll have a look at that in a moment. Right, here we've got, as I mentioned earlier, these move in and out to change their position depending on what size tape is in. So if I just wind this forward, you've got these a motor underneath here, little belt drive, worm gear onto these two gears here, and then we've got like a cam mechanism to change these and put it into the right position, and then it locks into place. There's a couple of optical sensors there, obviously to detect what position it's actually in. Okay, so we've got the mains power input. We've got a little circuit breaker just there. And we got what looks like the power supply just in here, which it looks like I might actually slide out. Catching on this. Looks like this is on some kind of hinge. But it doesn't want to hinge out. Well, just do that then. There's the power supply. So model number UR21B. On the back here we can see we've got those remote control ports that I mentioned earlier. We've got TBC remote, which is time-based corrector, remote 1 input, remote 1 output, remote 2. Yeah, so there's nothing really on there. It's just a circuit board with connections onto the connectors here. So nothing doing on there. We've got the cooling fan. Right, this is the rear panel. It's had all the audio and video connectors on. Not a hybrid, but they're sort of little daughter boards that have been soldered in there. Possibly little audio amplifiers or video amplifiers or something. Oh, one thing I've just noticed, looking at these caps here, it looks like some of these have started to die. That one is definitely bulging, that one as well. That one. So yep, this was certainly going to need some repairing soon. Well, there we've got the back plane. Interestingly, this is quite a really thin PCB material. It's really flexible. Got some nice big traces with the solder on top, so obviously those are higher current traces than the small signal wires. And just here we got this was part of the controls for the audio. Mostly surface mount on that one. There's a few through hole bits, capacitors and stuff, but a lot of that is surface mount. Oh, well, that's happened sooner or later, didn't it? That's one of the main drive motors. I would imagine these are probably going to be pretty schmick motors on here, I would have thought, given that the precise level of control they have for the tape transport, because of course these do actually have to work in unison at exactly the same rate to make sure the tension on the tape is all the same and everything all happens at once. I think the solenoid is the brake. So there's a little pad there which runs on the side there, and just so we've got an assembly here with a load of transistors. We've got Q, base emitter, EBC. Yeah, these are all just transistors, so these are going to switching all the different motors, solenoids and all that sort of stuff. Right, there's nothing else to see in that now. It's all gone. Right, I'm going to have a tidy up, and I will thin everything down and just take a look at the more interesting parts, and then we'll crack on. Right, as you can see, there is a huge amount of stuff here, and I'm not going to be able to fit this into the last 15 minutes, so we're going to split this one up into two. So I will see you in part 2. Catch you later.